Hey, good people. Welcome to our next chapter that we are going to be looking at. This week, we're going to be talking about the counselor as a person and as a professional. And I'm sharing my screen with you right now with the PowerPoint slides up here, and I'll be lecturing following the PowerPoint slides, but also referring to some of the information in the textbook. Let me also begin first by apologizing for the background noise of my dogs beginning to bark. I apologize and ask that you just kind of look beyond that as we go through the information in this chapter. Now, this chapter is going to be examining some information, not 100% inclusive, but at least bringing some information as an introduction for you to begin to think about your role as a helping professional. And I want to begin just by asking you to think about what is it that is motivating you to become a helping professional? What happened along the way for you, maybe in your personal journey, maybe in your educational journey, maybe in a professional journey that kind of started to steer you towards earning a degree, credentials, and soon to begin working as a helping professional? It's important that we, the people working in the field, have a recognition of what it is that's calling us to be in this field of practice, so that we understand, first of all, what our strengths may be, but also what our weaknesses may be. If you remember our opening discussion post, I asked you to post some information introducing yourself in regards to your strengths and your weaknesses. This is because it's important for us to have an understanding about where we fit in this realm of, or I should say, on our journey to becoming a helping professional. Not that this chapter is going to be a complete therapeutic intervention moment for us, because that's not the intention of it. The intention of this chapter is just to bring information to the forefront so that we can begin to think about what we're thinking about as we consider our journey in becoming a helping professional. So as we move on throughout becoming a helping professional, excuse me, some of the things that the book begins to talk about is basically helping professionals, counselors, therapists, social workers, going through this personal therapeutic journey. And it's very important, not so much that we go through a therapeutic journey just to say that we're doing it, but to do it because we want to learn a little bit more about ourselves. And that's referred to, when it's in our textbook, talking about that experiential learning. And when we do that experiential learning, we're looking at what is it about me that's helping me to hone in on good helping skills, poor helping skills, or maybe I should say helping skills that I need to work on. Questioning what is it that's motivating me to be in this career field? What are my values? What are my beliefs? What is it about my foundation that has influenced me to going into this direction? What is it about my foundation that gives me this desire to want to change the direction that I'm going in? So when we're talking about therapy for the helping professional, our book gets into a little bit of information about therapeutic journeys, sometimes whether it be as an individual or it could also take place in group therapy. There are times when you get into possibly your bachelor's degree program, but most definitely in your graduate study programs, where you may be assigned a somewhat like a peer support group or therapeutic group. And that is basically to entail the purpose of helping each other, one another helping each other go through this journey, this self-reflective journey, into getting to know your likes and dislikes. How do you find a balance? And what is it that you need to work on within yourself in order to get to this road of being a successful helping professional? Now, as we go through this journey, some of the things that we have to be mindful of is that while we are tuned into ourselves, sometimes our clients may not be as tuned into themselves and some of the feelings that they may be having. We get into this issue where the book transitions us into this the concept of transference and countertransference. When we're talking about transference is this idea, this feeling that our clients may have that they are imposing attitude, beliefs, feelings that they may have had in a past relationship. They're imposing that onto us, the helping professional, and it begins to impact our working relationship. It can be good, it can be bad, it can be healthy, it can be dangerous. The thing about the issue of transference is that it's very important for the counselor, for the helping professional, excuse me, to be aware of what's going on for the self, most importantly, but then also being able to recognize how is that influencing what the client, consumer, patient may be dealing with. Recognizing that with that client, consumer, patient, they may be reacting to something that we've said that became a trigger for them. And again, the trigger may be a pleasant memory. It may be a not so pleasant memory. But also we need to be mindful, good people, that everything that we do as a helping professional is not a reason for or a cause of transference. If a client is having a difficult time possibly with the counseling style that we have, that may not be an issue of transference. It may just be that they are uncomfortable with the way that we are working with them. If a client has a joyful moment because you all had a good session, good conversation, good resolution for the client, again, that may not be an issue of transference in that you reminded them of a healthy relationship, but it may just mean that the counselor was, or I'm sorry, the customer, consumer, or patient was able to find resolution and they felt at peace when they were getting ready to leave your session. So that's the issue of transference. When we get into the issue of countertransference, it is almost the same thing. However, it is reflective on the helping professional. It is when the helping professional begins to experience some emotional responses and attitude, associations, feelings for or towards their client that may be reflective of other relationships outside of that client, consumer, patient, and worker relationship. Now, it's very important, good people, when we're talking about countertransference, we have to make sure that we are on top of things about how we're dealing with things ourselves, how we are coping with emotional issues that we may be experiencing, how we may be dealing with stress that our client is not subject to know about. So when we're talking about countertransference, we're looking at how well you, the worker, are able to, again, tune into your feelings, your attitudes, the relationships that you have, and making sure that it doesn't transfer over, that it doesn't slide over into a relationship or your working relationship with your client, consumer, or patient. Now, the book gets into 8 specific examples of what countertransference may look like. And that's what we see here on the screen here. When we talk about being overprotective with a client, actually this one, being overprotective with a client, and this 5th one down, seeing yourself in your clients, sometimes that may intermix, especially when we're looking at issues such as maybe dealing with unemployment, maybe dealing with stressful and or violent relationships, becoming overprotective of the client, whereas we're not allowing the client to experience this healing journey for themselves, but we're trying to protect them from whatever the journey is they may be on. When we look at down here, developing sexual or romantic relationships or feelings for a client, that is something that, I think we see that glamorized a lot in social media. We see that played out a lot. However, we have to be mindful that when we are working with our client, consumer, patient, it is a very specific relationship. You are not going to work to make a family, to make new friends, and your client is not coming to see you to make new friends. It is important, good people, to be mindful when we're talking about developing sexual or romantic or relationships or feelings beyond a professional one, that our clients are already approaching us feeling helpless, injured, sick, in need of something. And they're coming to you with this idea that you, the professional, that you may possess the answers in helping them to find peace. So we need to respect the boundaries of that relationship and not get into an area where we're beginning to develop feelings for the client outside of a working relationship. This 7th one down, giving advice compulsively. You know, somewhere along the way, good people, someone told us, you give really great advice. Wow, you're a really great listener. I appreciate all of the suggestions that you give me. Somewhere along the way, someone told us that we have some good input in their lives. And that may be one of the issues or one of the reasons that got us to the place of wanting to be a helping professional. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because that is not a bad thing. But we have to recognize when it's important to let the mouth rest and let the ears work. We can't always be quick to give resolution. We cannot always be quick to give solutions to our clients, consumers, patients. Our job as a helping professional is to empower them to see the possibility of resolution for themselves. This very last one, desiring a social relationship with our clients. Sometimes our clients may come to us, and when they are at the end of their journey, they may want to give us a gift. And that gift may mean, I don't know, let me give you a gift certificate to a nice restaurant, or tickets to a sporting event. And then they may say, hey, I'll see you there one day. We have to be mindful that our relationship is one that it is a working relationship, and it is a terminal relationship, meaning that there's a very specific beginning and there's going to be a very specific end. So we have to know that after the end of our working relationship, there's nothing beyond that. One of the ways that I found easiest to address that, whether it was as a practicing clinician or in my role right now, excuse me, as an educator, is that when students reach out to me on social media, I do not respond, and I don't accept any type of friend request or follow this or anything like that from current students, because there is a very specific boundary that I must maintain between instructor and student. The same thing for when I was a practicing clinician. Very specific boundaries that I must maintain as clinician, client, consumer, patient. So if I would see one of my clients, consumers, or patients out and about in a social gathering, whether it be shopping at the mall, the grocery store, maybe it's at a park or at a social event, I was not going to be the one to initiate conversation. And I do that even now. If I see students that I remember out and about in public settings, I'm not going to be the one to initiate conversation or greeting, simply because I have to maintain that boundary with the relationship. And also because I don't know all the situations or all of the events that may be surrounding a student in their life. So I allow that person to be the one to initiate the greeting or initiate the conversation, and then I will follow through as appropriately. So it's important, again, this very last bullet, that we maintain the clear identity of what our working relationship is with our clients, consumers, and patients. Speaking of that working relationship, we get to this point where we're talking about client, consumer, patient dependence on you, the worker. Again, when people come in to see you, they are coming hurt, sick, in need of, injured. They need something from you. Excuse me. They are looking for you to provide some source of comfort, relief, some direction for the problem that they may be experiencing. So it's important to recognize, again, your role as the helping professional is to empower your client, consumer, or patient to make the correct decisions, and to make decisions that are going to benefit them, not what's going to benefit you. We must make sure that we maintain the focus, in its entirety on the client's needs, not for the client to be dependent on us for everything that goes on for them. Yes, it is our goal to work ourselves out of a job. That is our goal. We want to create healthy environments and encourage healthy growth and a healthy thought process for our clients, consumers, and patients. However, we know that that is going to be a steady challenge across the board. But our goal is to make sure that we create this feeling of independence and independent thought process for our clients. And we're just here as kind of the background cheerleaders for them, the navigators, if you have it that way, that we just navigate them on the journey that they're going on in helping them to get to that end result. one of the things we need to be mindful of as well when we're talking about client dependence is there's sometimes maybe issues with terminating relationships. And that's something that the book talks about. When we look at the issue of terminating relationships with our clients, consumers, and patients, we want to make sure that we do it in a healthy way. We don't want to hold on to our clients, consumers, or patients just because they help us to feel good about who we are, or it helps us to justify our our expenditures. When we're looking at terminating a relationship, there are various steps that we go in, and we'll talk about this in later chapters of how we terminate a relationship. Just a brief overview: some relationships may be terminated because their insurance has reached its max, so there are no more benefits available. A relationship may be terminated because a client is unable to pay. A relationship may be terminated because a client stops showing up. A relationship may be terminated because you, the worker, are finding it more challenging to work with the client, and maybe the client is finding it challenging to work with you, the worker. So again, when we're talking about terminating the relationship, we don't want to delay it for our personal benefit as the worker. And we want to make sure that we do it in a timely fashion so that the client maintains this idea of independence and working towards that independent thought. As we're working in the helping profession, good people, we come across some things that every day is a new day. Every day is a new journey. And so with that being said, sometimes we hear some information, we may retain information that, again, it begins to build up and build up and build up over time. These are the work that we are striving to be in as a helping professional, can be stressful at times. So when we're talking about working within the helping profession, our book gets into the discussion about empathy fatigue versus empathy balance. We have to figure out, when we're talking about that empathetic balance, how are we balancing for ourselves this whole idea and the concept of walking in our clients' footsteps or in their shoes without so much becoming part of the issue or taking over the client issue. When we talk about that empathy fatigue, we get to a place where we begin to just function almost automatically, almost without thought, void of emotion, void of any type of connection with our client, consumer, and patient. And when we get to this place of empathy fatigue, we quickly get to this whole idea of burnout. Excuse me. When we consider what burnout is, burnout is a journey that is one that is, it can alter your career. I will say that, as it did for mine. Burnout is when you reach this state of, that you're unable to empathize with your client, consumer, patient. It is an emotional journey. It's a physical journey. It is a mental journey that sometimes you, the worker, just feel like there's nothing else left to give. My experience with burnout happened when I was a clinical social worker at Allegheny General Hospital. While at Allegheny General Hospital, I truly had such an awesome professional experience working with the doctors and the nurses in the neurosurgical ICU and on the crisis team as a whole. I learned a lot as a clinician in working with the patients and their families as they came into the hospital. But one thing began to happen for me when I began to experience this issue of empathy fatigue. I began to function as if my patients were just another person on a gurney, rolling in, rolling out. The family members, just more people coming in seeking assistance. I was not able to make that emotional connection, was not able to make that professional connection with my families and the patients. And it began to hinder and impact the way that I worked with my families and patients. And that's when we get down to talking about how burnout can impair some of the work that you do as a helping professional. when I go back and we talk about some of the stress that we may feel, looking at some of the stress, this adds to the whole idea of burnout. Excuse me. And when we get to that place of burnout and impairment in the work that we do, this is when we, the worker, have to take some time out, and we got to think about, what is it that I have to do to maintain me? What do I have to do to get me, the worker, back where I need to be? What do I have to do to protect the professional part of me, as well as the emotional and the physical and the intellectual part of me? So we have to learn how to take care of ourselves, good people. Yes, you have to take care of you, just the same way you take care of everyone else. So the book is into a little bit of information about self-care. In the folder this week, you're going to find a handout labeled as Balance Your Life. And when we talk about self-care, it's important for us to recognize what are some of the things that we're doing throughout the day, 24 hours out of the day. How are we spending our time, and where do we have enough time, or where are we having time to spend on ourselves? Just as we talk with our clients about making a positive change for themselves and taking care of themselves, we, the worker, have to do the same thing. So sometimes it may be that we change our lifestyle. Yes, we, the worker, have to deal with that C word, change. We may need to change from being sedentary to being active. We may need to change the type of relationships that we have, or at least the intensity of the relationships. We may need to alter and look at how we are providing service to everyone else around us, and think about, what am I doing for myself? When we talk about maintaining ourselves and maintaining our health, we as the worker have to learn how to be not just compassionate for our patients, clients, consumers, but what about me? I have to learn how to be compassionate for myself, to take my needs into consideration, not saying it has to become a me society, but we have to learn how to find that time throughout the day, just that we can focus on exhaling for ourselves. So when we're talking about the client as a person, the counselor as a person, as a professional, your personal life does impact your professional life. So I end this session just by encouraging you, when you are completing the assignments in this week's folder, I really want you to think about what you're thinking about as it pertains to you, the worker. As you read through the chapter, please be mindful to read through the sample case studies that they have within the chapter, and consider some of the ways that you would address the questions that follow the brief case studies. And finally, take a look at that Balance Your Life sheet that I have in the file for you. Think about how you're spending your time throughout the day, but also when you look at the second page of that, think about what is beneficial to do right now, what's a waste of your time right now, and what can wait until tomorrow. All right, good people, enjoy reading this chapter. Take time to explore the self. Make sure that you tap into the self and find a way to exhale. All right, good people, I will catch you on the next chapter. Have a good day.